Hey, how's it going? This is Disco Stew over here in Japan. I'm gonna work on the FC. What I want to do today is get this radiator in. This is a good used Koyo one that I grabbed off Yahoo auctions. I'm gonna pull these fins, these squashed fins, gonna try and make them a bit nicer so it helps with the airflow, but it looks everything else looks in pretty good condition, so except for the paint chipping, but that's okay. No one is going to really see in the engine bay when I'm drifting it, and the rest of it is not a show car either, so I'm not too worried about looks. So let's get started. Wow, what a nice fun job that is. So I've got the worst area pretty much straightened out, just using a flat blade screwdriver like that, working it in between the fins, trying to get them a little bit straight so the air can flow through, but I've got the worst of it done. Well, I've finally straightened out most of the fins in the radiator. Not the most fun job in the world, but looks okay now. Should be able to use that okay. So next I've got to pull the stock radiator out of this guy, and to do that I've got to jack it up, drain the coolant out, and pull it out and do the swap. So shouldn't be too hard, and then yeah. So after about an hour and a few swear words later, finally got the radiator out. That's the standard one. That's the thicker, I think it's a 3-core, I don't know, it could be a 2-core or a 3-core. But that's going in now. Well, unfortunately ran out of time today, didn't get to put the other radiator in completely. I got it half in. It's in there, it just needs couple of extra bits. I gotta actually shorten that lower radiator hose because there's a bit of a bend in it, and it's looking a bit weird, so shorten that and then put everything back together. But that'll be another day soon. Alright, so it's the next morning. I'm gonna try and button this up. Shouldn't take too long. So this one is the bottom radiator hose, and when it was on it was kind of kinked like that. Probably doesn't have that much effect, but I'd like it to sit as natural as possible, so I'm just gonna slice maybe a centimeter off the end there, and that should make it fit a little better. You always want to cut less than necessary because you can always cut off more. You can't add back on. Something to remember. So when you're cutting small hose like vacuum hose or fuel hose or something, a little cutter like this is really cool. You get a nice clean square cut with this little tool, but for something bigger, I don't have a big one of those, so this knife will have to do the trick, and this is nice and sharp. So it doesn't always cut as cleanly as you think you can, but it's not too bad. It's good enough. So let's go try and test fit it on, see if it fits nicely. And a little tip, when you're putting on radiator hoses, don't use any grease or oil or any lubricant like that, because you want the radiator hoses to stay on as much as possible, because when it's under pressure you don't want them to come off easily. Bottom one's on, still a tiny kink in it, but it's not as bad as it was. It's looking good. Now time for the top. Well, she's back together. Everything's tightened up. Now it's the fun job of putting coolant back in, and I'll show you what the coolant looks like after it was sitting outside here yesterday. This was just sitting outside for a couple hours yesterday, and it got some nice little floaties and chunks and leaves and crap in there, so I'll do my best to filter that out before I put it in. Alright, got most of the floaties and little dead bugs out, and now it's the fun part, trying to pour it into there without spilling half of it onto the ground. Well, that worked better. I transferred it into this bottle first, and from this bottle I'll put it into the radiator. That should be a lot easier. Well, not good news. So I was just about to start it so I could make sure there's no leaks and I could test it and, you know, burp the cooling system and everything. But I tried to start it without the airflow meter connected, and when I realized that, so it wouldn't start first off, then I connected it, then I tried to start it and it wouldn't start, so I'm guessing I've flooded it. Now I've tried some de-flooding procedures but it still doesn't work, so I'm gonna have to pull the plugs out, crank the engine over to remove all the fuel, clean the plugs, maybe put in the new plugs that I have as well, so maybe it's a good time to do that. Well, what a mission that was. So it was very well flooded. It's oily and wet. This bastard looks like it's never been changed once. It was like glued in there. That was the hardest of all. So yeah, the plugs look like they're in well need of a replacement, so I'm gonna put the new plugs in after I crank the engine over and try and get all the excess fuel out, and after the new plugs are in, it should fire right up. Fingers crossed. So with these rotaries, you got two types of plugs. You got the trailing plug, which goes on the top, and then the leading plug, which goes on the bottom, and they've conveniently labeled them L and T so you know which ones go where. How about that? Alright, new plugs are in, got everything hooked up I'm pretty sure, so fingers crossed it should start this time around. I won't push the accelerator, we'll just try and start it. Come on, start. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, look, all that gas was piled up, but it should clear up soon. It's amazing what a new set of plugs will do, hey? So I'll just let it warm up. Let it warm up and fill up the radiator, pressurize the cooling system to test it out. Alright, so it should be all smooth sailing from here on out, unless just hope the radiator doesn't have a leak in it or anything, but usually Yahoo auction stuff is awesome, never fail with Yahoo auctions. Alright, so the engine's been running for a little while now and it's gotten up to temperature and there doesn't appear to be any leaks, which is great news. So the good old Yahoo auctions radiator did the job. I knew it would. So I'm going to call it a day, go home, have some lunch, and thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe and check out any other videos that tickle your fancy. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. This is Disco, tuning out. See you later.